4, 3, 2, 1.
Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Gothic news, gothic news, gothic, gothic, gothic,
Welcome, lovely, dapper folks, to the Fox Den this evening. I'm your debonair host, Mr. Fox Squire. Now we have, for your viewing pleasure, the amazing Kelly Carnes, founder of Trove Costumes, for the time tonight to go ahead and keep us company. But before I go ahead and allow them to introduce themselves, let me go ahead and pay a few of these bills. Shout out to Head Nerds in Charge for bringing me onto the greater HNIC network. Make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to Head Nerds in Charge on YouTube and all other platforms. You can go to headnerdsincharge.com and pick up some merch and sign up for the Patreon. Without further ado, let's embrace the spectacle and dive in with our guests. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. Thanks for having me, both to you, Fox, and to Head Nerds in Charge. Really grateful for the opportunity.
Amazing. I am super excited. We have only talked via email, actually. So this is amazing because we actually have not seen each other face to face.
I know, to see your face.
I know. I've been following, of course, I'm like following you on the internet. I know you went to Disney World not too long ago and did some things called Disney bounding, and we'll get into all of that. So let's start out with the basic of Trove. What was the preface to get you here that you thought, hey, I need to start this thing? And also, what is Trove?
Yeah. Let me set the tone by letting you know how big my costume closet is, because I'm sure that a lot of people watching have a similar problem if they're cosplayers. I'll take you back into the costume closet here.
Sneak peek, ladies and gentlemen, sneak peeks.
So this is behind the scenes just in my costume closet. And the way Trove started was that I have all of these beautiful, brilliant costumes. And obviously, I'm not wearing them every day. I mean, as much as I would love to wear those horns every day of the week, it's not going to happen. So otherwise, they just sit here making my costume room look lovely. But they aren't out there in the world bringing people joy and allowing creativity to thrive. So the idea behind Trove was to build a platform where people who have costumes in storage, big collections like I do that they're not wearing every day, could monetize those collections. So Trove is the first peer-to-peer costume rental platform, meaning you can rent out your costumes when you're not wearing them to other folks. They wear them, they rock them, they return them, they get to express themselves. You get a little bit of cash in your pocket to reinvest in your costume habit, and everybody wins.
See, that's exactly that peer-to-peer, I think, is what makes it super special. I think one of the things I've read, and I probably have said, when you're going to www.trovecostumes.com, it really feels like you're almost looking at like an Airbnb setup where it's someone's personal property that they are lending to you for a specific amount of time, and then you're handing it back with all the love and care that was provided to you. So it's one of the things that I absolutely love about the idea of this. I know when I first saw it, I was so just elated to even know something like this was out there. I have a Trove profile out there. It doesn't have a million things. It has a couple things on there, but it's super cool. The idea of all these things that you spend so much time and effort on going ahead and being back out in the world and still doing some artsy fartsy good. Now, when it comes to you really getting the business off the ground, now, when did Trove Costumes start in your mind?
Well, the idea was incepted around 2018 or so. You know, if you're a costume person and you have all of these wonderful treasures in your trove, that your friends are constantly coming to you when they've got a costume party to go to, or every year when Halloween comes around because they know that you got the goods. So I've spent, years and too much money, an embarrassing amount of money collecting all of these wonderful pieces. And so I always have the highest quality stuff that people want to borrow. And it just got to the point where, come spooky season in particular, I was constantly outfitting friends, which was very fun, dressing up my friends like dolls every weekend to go to the Ren Fair or a party. It was a great time and all. But it ended up, I'm a freelancer in my other life. It ended up starting to eat into my billable hours. And I thought, okay, well, if this is a service that's in demand, how can I actually incorporate this into my business? And so I floated the idea at Renaissance Fair in costume to my friends there and said, hey, if I built a website where I rented these pieces out instead of just letting people borrow them, do you think people would want to rent them? And they said, hell yeah. And I'll do better than that. We want to put our stuff on there too, because like you, we've got costumes just gathering dust in our closets that we've spent hundreds on or hundreds of hours on. And if we could reclaim some of that value and reinvest it into new stuff while letting somebody else access this creative joy, exactly what you were saying before, all boats rise, everybody wins. So that's when the solving a me problem became the light bulb of, I can solve a we problem. I can actually make this available to everyone. And then Trove has more styles, more sizes, more genres when everybody is included. So that's when the platform opened up to be this peer to peer. And like you were saying earlier, we did look at Airbnb as a model. We looked at Rent the Runway as a model. These are platforms that people and models that people are already familiar with. So it wasn't a big leap to apply that to another category of high value goods that you use less frequently.
Now, for Trove, specifically, when they are going, if I am, I guess from both angles, if I'm just a person like, okay, I see this, I want to dig into it and I want to get something, how does that work? And then if I am like, I've got a costume full, what are the steps for both sides coming together?
The website, we've hopefully made it pretty easy, because when you go to the site, you're asked the primary question, what do you want to do? And you have two options, either rent a costume or list a costume. So if you've got a costume storage full, you can go to list a costume and it takes you to a dashboard. Once you register and have an account, it takes you to a dashboard. And it's going to look similar to like an Etsy dashboard. If you've ever been a vendor and sold anything on Etsy, it's similar. And we tried to build it like that intentionally because we know a lot of the artisans who sell their work and costumes and maker stuff on Etsy are going to be a similar audience to Trove. So we wanted the space to be familiar. We wanted the tools to be intuitive. So you go through a process of listing information about the item. What you're renting it out for, what size is it, what materials is it made of, is there anything special that people need to know? Are there any restrictions to wearing it? Like if it's a cultural item or if it's something that if people were to wear, you don't want it to compete in a costume contest without credit or something like that. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to list as much information as you want about the item, as well as, of course, add a lot of images. And then you can publish it right to the site so that people can, when they're browsing the site, find your item. So the flip side to that is if you're looking for a costume, you click on the rent a costume button and it takes you to a page where you can either just browse the vast storage that we have, the inventory that we have listed, or you can filter it. We've got filtering by location. If you want to pick something local so you don't have to pay for shipping, you just want to pop over and pick it up from that person, which I really like that piece. You can by size, by the type of item that it is or the category that it is. If you're looking for like steampunk or Renaissance or Disney, you can type in keywords, or by price point if you're looking to keep under a certain budget.
That's fantastic. And that's so, it makes it so easy to
Mhm.
do this particular peer-to-peer sharing. And I think that's one of the things I know for myself that was also just like, wait, oh, this is another person who also has put some time and care into this. And
Mhm.
speaking of that time and care, now what is what is the normal process when you are getting the costume back as a somebody who's putting stuff out there, or you're giving the costume back? And what happens if there is a new flaw, a new variation that's like, ooh, like if I'm getting something and I'm like, this is a different color than what I thought, or or I'm the person getting it back and I'm like, this looks got a little extra, a little extra on here that I didn't
Like,
put out there.
it's
Yeah.
in the world. Yeah, we definitely within our system have incorporated air insurance. So it's just like Airbnb, where if somebody rents your property, it is insured by Trove. So if something were to come back damaged, then you can submit a claim to Trove in order to get that damage fixed, or to even replace the item up to its original retail value if it's the kind of damage that can't be fixed. We wanted to make sure that everybody felt safe and that there was a layer of accountability, so that you're not just dealing with somebody random on the internet, through a Facebook group, through Craigslist, but you're dealing with somebody that's registered through Trove, so we can make sure that there's accountability for when those things happen, and that we can make a person whole and their costume whole if anything were to happen to it.
Yeah, exactly. Come through for guaranteed quality. Exactly. I think it's one of the things as a cosplayer, and I'm sure you run into as well, we put so much into the quality of the piece, into remaking the look of a specific garment, that it does give a lot of ease to know that somebody also cares about that quality and also cares about that idea of, hey, this is going to be better than what is it, Lake Avenue?
Yeah, exactly.
And
of course,
when
built in a rating system as well, so that each person
Mm.
can rate the transaction afterwards.
Now, when you have the rating system, is there a threshold where it's like, can you see what the ratings are on each side?
You can view someone, and it's similar to Etsy. It's a 5-star rating, so you're going to be very familiar with the system, and that way you can preview a person's rating before you're renting to them. There's also a contact owner button, so if there are questions you have about the size or the fit or the color versus on screen and or in real life, or the way that something attaches, the way that something wears, you can also reach out to the person in advance, and vice versa, to have those conversations about anything in particular you need to go over first.
Right. And then now, what is the length of time for like, how do you say, okay, I need it for one night, or I need it for 10 nights, or whatever the length of time is that you are allotting?
Yeah, the rental window right now is a week. We were thinking about weekend conventions, essentially. If you're going to go to a convention, maybe on a Thursday or Friday, if you have it by Wednesday, that gives you time to enjoy the convention, come back, do any cleaning you might need to, and return it within the week window. There is, when you're listing the costume item, you have the ability to, kind of like an Airbnb, where you set house rules about, I want you to take the trash out, or I want you to put the temperature back on this when you leave. There are rules that you can set about the way that you want your garment treated after it's worn. So you can say, this one's an easy one. You can toss it in with your normal laundry on normal cycle and it's fine. Or you can say, you know what, this is a delicate piece. I know how to clean it. I would prefer you send it back to me as is, and I will clean it when it gets returned to make sure that it's handled the way that I would like it to be.
Right. And now, are there cleaning fees if you're the person putting it forward? Are you allowed to add a cleaning fee to it, or would that be in the general amount when you're
Right
first
now,
reading it?
amount, but we've toyed with the idea of incorporating that later. At this point, I don't want people to be surprised. So when they check out, there's a bunch of extra fees added on that they weren't expecting. So hopefully when you check out, what you see is what you get plus the transaction fee. But we've thought about whether or not we need to segment it out if there are items that require more intense cleaning than other items. But to BD.
Hey, it's always an improvement, especially when you're working as a small business.
Exactly. I love people's feedback. So if you feel strongly one way or the other and good about how you'd like to see this work in order to feel safe using your costume in this way, then I would love to know, because we are building and improving and adding every day to Trove. We just cracked it open this past year, or the past couple of years during COVID, when we had some downtime because everything was closed and no one was wearing costumes places. We had some time to go in and take the initial feedback we had from the launch and add features that people requested or change things to make the checkout process a little smoother, a little bit more user friendly, a little bit faster. We increased the speed of our listing so you can list something in as little as 60 seconds.
Craig Johnson was just saying this is a really interesting interview.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, Trove is not, it's really interesting mostly because it's not something anybody else has done. It's not like, oh, I saw something just like this over at, no, I have yet to see a peer-to-peer like this one that has such a great offering, and the things you guys have listed are gorgeous. Like I just saw, I think somebody had a Coraline, excuse me, a
Yeah.
Coraline listing with the raincoat and
Yeah.
the whole thing. It was, I
Beautiful.
was like, this is a really nice setup. Like you get
Yeah.
yourself a wig and you're good to go for a
Yeah.
Halloween costume.
We
Now,
actually
speaking
just
of,
had a local, pardon, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
We just had a local, well, kind of local. I'm right outside of DC in Maryland, and this circus company is in Philadelphia. But we just had a circus performance arts company upload about half of their costume wardrobe. So we have like 100 new circus outfits that just got inventory. Yeah. So if you're a performer and you're looking for something to wear in your drag show in the upcoming weekend, Lord knows, I know how much the queens and kings spend on their outfits for just one performance. This is a way to exchange those goods instead, so you're not having to use that precious tip money that you get on the next week's outfit. So I've lost my train of thought.
You talk about the circus performers.
Yes, the circus performers. So we just got brand new inventory from them. And then, as you were saying earlier, I got back from Disney and I still need to add all of my Disney bounding stuff. So I've got about a dozen pairs of cool Disney ears that need to go on there.
No, how I know that you've been to quite a few different things when it comes to conventions, whether it be as a cosplayer or as or representing Trove. And what are you seeing as you're like going to these conventions and the reactions to Trove, and also the signups and things like that when it comes to people? Are you signing people up there at your booth, or do you give them a card, or how does it all work when you're actually at the con?
Oh, all of the above. So the idea began in 2018. That's when we started building the idea, doing the research to make sure nothing else this was already out there. But then the site actually launched in 2019. And we had a preview of it in April of that year at our home convention here in DC at AwesomeCon. Well, one of our home conventions, there's a few. But the timing lined up for us to give sort of a preview to our home-based local audience at AwesomeCon. And so that was the first time that we were on a booth, at a booth on the floor, interacting with our new audience, our new constituency. And that was amazing because we got so much good feedback, not only about ideas that we could incorporate, but just positive energy. People were like high-fiving us as they walked past the booth and screaming at us like, yeah, our community needs this. And one girl just like slammed her hands on the desk and was like, are my eyes turning into dollar bills? Because I have so much stuff in my trunk that I am not anymore. And actually, we got two good ideas from that convention in particular. One person who said, what if I'm totally done with something and I just want to sell it? I don't want to rent it. And because of their feedback, we built in the feature to sell things too. So you can rent the stuff that you want to keep, and you can sell the stuff that you are totally done with or doesn't fit anymore, and you get it out of your closet and make space for something new. And then the second one was a maker who came to us and said, I'm a costume maker. I make costumes and sell them on Etsy. If I were to be able to make a collection specifically for Trove, I could rent that out, that collection, over and over and over again, and make money on that repeatedly, that collection, while I still work on my one-offs. Because once I make that collection, it just makes money for me forever. It just prints money. And I can still work on the one-off commissions to get variety and new customers and diversity. activity in my life. So it's going to help me as a small creative business owner make a better livelihood for myself. And that was mind blowing. We hadn't even considered it like a small business creative catalyzer until that moment.
Now, do you have a lot of, I'm sure you have cosplayers and drag people and all that who make for performing, but somebody like that who is a maker in that way, do you have a lot of people who've now come to you and are like, I've created this as my own kind of like storefront? Or is it still mostly cosplayers and performers that you're seeing?
Good question. I don't know. Nobody has outright said that to me in a while, so I don't have good numbers to share with you. So I would say my guess is it's primarily cosplayers first. There are so many costume wearing communities that we want to broaden this opportunity for. There's historic reenactors, there's theatrical performers. We did have a small local theater rent 16 pieces last year for about 6 weeks so that they could run a 1930s Prohibition era show. So they had a bunch of flapper dresses and like fedoras and headdresses, and they were able to put on a show and not have to buy costumes and then store or resell. They were just returning them, and then they were able to use the money that they saved to reinvest into their next performance. So we were really excited to help subsidize essentially local arts in our area and keep the costs low for them so that they could deliver their performance without worrying about their budget bottom line so much. So yeah, we know we're going to expand there. People who go to festivals, people who go to themed parties, kids, pets, Mardi Gras, Burning Man, the sky is the limit. There are 1,400, more than 1,400 cosplay conventions alone that happen across North America a year. So there are so many opportunities. People are surprised sometimes, muggles, I should say, are surprised when there are costume wearing opportunities outside of Halloween. But in fact, people are wearing costumes all year round. You and I know that. Yeah. So there are so many audiences that we want to expand to in order for everybody to use this. The reason that we're focused on cosplayers first is that that's a community that I know. I've been a cosplayer for 7 years. So that's been a hobby. That's a community that I know. This is a tool that I knew that this community needed from these conversations that I'd had with people. It's a community I know how to talk to, and it's a community that has great inventory that they have in storage that they're looking to monetize, and it's a community that knows how to take care of each other's stuff. I really wanted to start with a community who knew how precious these materials were to everyone, to each other. So that we were starting from a place of everyone having positive experiences of other people understanding, knowing how to care for costume items, and knowing how to return them in the shape that they were loved and cared for in the first place.
Nope, that makes perfect sense. And actually, as you were saying that, I wonder for your kind of future, have you had thoughts of reaching to like the production spaces where they're doing like live events or like small films? Because I know you're saying a theater had reached out. Has that been something that you've seen, or is that still something that's on the horizon?
It's still on the horizon. That just happened organically and was a lovely surprise to us. We did get some outreach from just recently, and I'm trying to figure out how to build this into the platform. We heard from a Texas children's theater that said, we're not only one theater, we are in an ecosystem of about 100 children's theaters in the area. And if we could list our items and exchange them with each other, then we wouldn't be going through the process of wasting our budget buying and wasting items. So if we could just build in like a password protected portal on Trove where just our community could exchange goods, that would help us save on our resources. And I went straight to my web developer and said, how do we figure this out? So we're getting good ideas like that all the time from our community and trying to figure out how to build them into the next phases of the project.
That's amazing. Now, for you personally, I know that, yes, you do cosplaying and then you also do blogging. Is that correct?
Not so much. I am in communications. So
okay.
My non-cosplay life is as a communications professional. I was actually I'm still in the public relations business. And for the last 17 years, I've been working with a variety of organizations. I was at the Smithsonian for 11 years. at
Wow.
the Natural History Museum, and then at the Hirshhorn for a year and a half. And then I went to the Kennedy Center, and I was at the Kennedy Center and responsible for the public relations on the contemporary side of things, and responsible for all of the red carpet events. So the Mark Twain Prize, the Spring Gala, and of course, a lot of people are familiar with the Kennedy Center Honors.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 years ago, I started my own PR company. Like, I need more companies to run them. But that was actually what gave me some flexibility in my schedule to ideate, to dream, and to build this second project, which was Trove, based on my hobby and my passion and the thing that I loved outside of my professional background. The nice thing is I come with those communication skills baked in. So I'm really good at talking about why I love it so much.
Well, that's perfect. I know that when it comes to life away from cosplaying, it's interesting the way that it integrates into what you're doing on the side or your own little hobby. So it's really cool that you have that public relations to like be right there, because it's just not something everybody has. It's not something that everybody digs themselves into. No, when it comes to you going ahead and like when you're going out, I know you just got back from Disney World. Do you find yourself kind of pushing Trove or pushing your companies as you go, or is it a hard time for you to like shut it off?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's hard to shut it off because I'm so passionate about it. Usually what happens is I don't necessarily walk into a conversation with an intention. However, a lot of times I'll get compliments on what I'm wearing, because I like to think that I have some good costumes on sometimes. And usually I'll get a compliment and say, if you like this, it'll be available for rent on Trove after this weekend. Here's my card. What's Trove, you ask? And then the conversation evolve from there. So usually it happens because we're in a scenario where we're celebrating something that we love about the way that we look. And it comes up that this is an opportunity that someone could use to either use for what they're wearing or use to acquire what I'm wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure
I
people
don't have like my pocket full of business cards at all times, just in case. Your question earlier, I don't think I completely answered, was when we go to conventions. So when we launched Trove in 2019, well, we did the preview in April. We did the official launch at Dragon Con. So over Labor Day weekend was when the website officially launched. And we had a table on the registration line, which was crazy insane because, like 90,000 people filter past that line. And we had all sorts of great swag, great conversations. And the whole time we were there, and any other convention or costumed event that we go to, we typically have pockets full of business cards in case those conversations come up. And sometimes I do try to take a break, because after 2019, I think we went to like 19 conventions that year. And my poor partner was like, I'm exhausted. Can we take some breathing room? So I tease him sometimes that the pandemic is his fault. Their intentions for 2020. He was like, I'd like to do a little less. I need a break. I'm tired. I need some rest. Of course, we did nothing for 2 years.
No.
So yeah, 2019 was pretty exhausting because we were really beating the streets getting the word out that this new platform was available to folks. And by the end of it, I did admit that by like the next like fall season, I was pretty tired. And I wanted to make sure that I preserved my passion for this hobby and didn't just make this hobby into a job. So I remember specifically after going to, I don't know how many weekends in a row we were traveling to Salem for Halloween. And I don't know if you've ever been to Salem for Halloween, but
No, I haven't.
That is a whole nother ball game. And it was so much fun. And I don't have to make it happen. Like it just already happens. I don't have to do any work. I can go enjoy it. So that's kind of my treat to myself. And that I remember being on the plane and handing my stack of business cards to my partner and saying, put these away for the weekend. I am going to take a break, and I'm just going to enjoy being dressed up and having fun and not have to worry about making this into work.
No, and it's so important, like that. Those self-care moments really do come into play. I think if, aside from, of course, wash your hands and wear your mask and all the other things that people took away from 2020, I feel like there were a lot of new and good conversations about making sure that people are taking time. Like,
you're so right.
2020 was a lot of time. But taking some time, because you can get a real burnout. So, and actually, while we have a second, I'm going to take a quick little bit of time and just say thank you again to Head Nerds in Charge. Head Nerds in Charge, thank you again so much for this amazing opportunity. And I just want to go ahead and tell everyone to take a moment, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share headnerdsincharge.com. This is the HNIC network. And of course, when you're going to headnerdsincharge.com, you'll see the merch. You can go ahead and sign up for the Patreon and just take those moments, because things like this happen. This is definitely a peer-to-peer moment that we're having here. You see that Trove Costumes.com is a peer-to-peer thing. This is also peer-to-peer. Yep, Trove Costumes rentals. Perfect. And then you can always take some time, as we're talking about going ahead and going to headnerdsincharge.com, to not just go to trovecostumes.com, but you are on IG, Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Yeah, we just started a TikTok account, but it's in its beginning stages.
Fledgling.
It is. It's a baby. It's a baby TikTok.
But yes, it's Kelly Carnes at Trove Costumes on pretty much all the platforms. When you look up Trove Costumes, you'll pick it up on IG, Facebook. I believe you guys have a Twitter as well.
We don't have a Twitter account.
We don't have Twitter. Okay. That's the one. You guys found the spot.
That's
no Twitter.
So I gotta watch Twitter too.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of social media going on. And speaking of social media, now how are you? I know that I was part of a few of the campaigns that went on. Mm-hmm. There's also, I believe, brand ambassadors. How are you selecting these people? How is it when you go to the cons with these folks? What is your strategy here?
Yeah, we did institute a program this year to engage ambassadors. So, for example, when we went to Dragon Con, we worked with Tranquil Ashes. I don't know if you're familiar with their cosplay work. She's brilliant. And she was our ambassador at Dragon Con, meaning that she was there representing us, posting about us, posting with our hashtags and our links, and representing us on the floor if people had questions, rocking a Trove mask and a Trove tee sometimes, and just helping us spread the word and engage new communities. Part of my goal with the ambassador program was to engage all perspectives. We want to be as radically inclusive as possible. We aspire to as much diversity as people will welcome. So anyone who wants to engage with us, we just did an all call, and anybody who wanted to engage with us, we had conversations about what they were interested in doing, which conventions they were interested in going to, what they felt comfortable with in terms of engagement. Fitted everybody with swag and cards and sent them out into the world. And so we had somebody at Katsucon, we had somebody at Dragon Con, we had somebody at Holiday Matsuri this year. And then we had some ambassadors who were really gifted in TikTok, as you know. And since we're just a baby TikTok, that was something that I was interested in leveraging as well, the expertise there. So partnering with people like yourself to engage on TikTok so that we could be in that space and engage that audience too. I think we had 3 different ambassadors who were on TikTok for us last year. And we're always for new ambassadors, so please contact us if you're interested in getting your favorite con registration pass taken care of and some cool swag. And in exchange, all you gotta do is talk about how cool we are, which is easy.
Yeah, and that's you're seeing on the screen there. It's trovecostumes.com. Again, TROVE costumes.com. And when it comes to Trove, go ahead.
Pardon, I want to say people when they initially reached out were afraid that they didn't have big enough followings on social media. I can't tell you how much I don't care. I'm not interested necessarily in the quantity of your following, but the quality of your audience and engagement. Is it inclusive? Is it diverse? Is everybody accepted and welcome in your community? Because that's the part of the community we want to be a part of and encourage.
Yeah. And
if you have 10 followers or 10,000, if they're 10 followers who are good people who would be interested in this and interested in being a part of Trove and its community, we would love to be friends.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things in Trove that's amazing is that you are looking in all aspects. I have seen I think I've seen quite a few different body shapes, a lot of different skin colors and tones. There's never been this like, oh, it's just a specific type of cosplayer who does this one thing. Everything from drag to cosplay and like you were saying, circus, the diversity is already there for that costume connection. It's more of this is here so that those people can actually talk to each other now.
Cosplay is for everyone. I can't emphasize that enough. It is for everyone. And the only thing that drives me bonkers about our community is sometimes, and it's fortunately only a small percentage of people, but sometimes when people try to gatekeep anyone from this joyful creative expression, I just lose my mind a little bit, because there is a reason that that cosplay is the combination of the words costume and play, because we are all dressing up for fun, and that should include absolutely everyone. And Trove aspires to create a community that honors that every day.
Yeah. And I think that ambassador, the brand ambassador, where it is looking for everyone, and you're not, okay, you have to have this many followers to come in, you have to have this, makes it so that it is accessible to everyone. Like if people are interested, they can just reach out and say, hey, I'm interested, and this is what I'm bringing to the table. And you're actually valued and looked at for your quality and not just the quantity, because those numbers, they're not bad. The people who have them, amazing, good job. It's more of, because your mission is really to add that inclusivity when it comes to the connection point, it makes a difference. So it's one of those things. I know I did a lot of like background research on Trove before I kind of like completed the conversation that was started, because I sent in my information. And then when I got the email back from you, I was like, okay, well, let me look in,
Make sure they're legit
in here before I say yes. And seeing so much positivity was really what got me, that I was like, yeah, I would love to work with you guys. Like, this is amazing. And it's definitely one of those things that you don't often see, because there are those people who want to gatekeep, like, oh, you're not this size, this is not that color. Just all those different things where it's like, it's about putting the effort and the love and the attention into a character, and then going ahead and showing that out to the world. I know even for myself, I was hired for a, it was Exotica. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was Exotica one year, and they actually have a costume time. Like, I think it's like Saturday. Yeah, we do not tolerate any gatekeeping over here. That's correct. It was like a Saturday, and so everyone's dressing up. Well, they didn't know when they hired me I was a cosplayer as well as doing hosting. So I was like, well, do you want me to dress cosplay? Like, sure. So I wore my Mr. Glass cosplay, and there are
I bet that was so good.
So many amazing, beautiful people walking around in like less stuff, more stuff, really nice, but they don't necessarily cosplay. And here I was cosplaying, and it was definitely very well received, but it was a different type of idea, because no one thought to themselves, oh, I'll wear a full-on costume, especially from Glass, as Mr. Glass. Like, they were like, oh my God. Like, and people knew. That's the other thing, is when I pick the people I dress up, I never think people are going to know who I am. I do it because I'm like, I want to highlight that character. I really liked them. I really liked what they put forward. And so to be recognized is always something I enjoy. And I know as a cosplayer and as somebody who does perform, that's that other connection, is when people can see something and they're like, oh my gosh, that looks just like this. And to be able to go ahead and say, hey, I'm seeing this picture on Trove.com, on Trove Costumes.com, and I want to go ahead and be recognized as that character, and to be able to get your hands on it, it's just amazing. It's so perfect. It's just so perfect.
It doesn't matter if you make your costume, rent your costume, buy your costume, borrow your costume. It is about inhabiting a character that you love. And if that character lights you up, then that's what it's all about. So don't let anybody dim your light.
No, never, never. It's one of the things one of the reasons I started the show for this particular season and us talking about conventions is because there's such a wide berth of conventions that people don't always think about. You know, they hear about the Dragon Cons and the awesome cons, which are amazing, but there's a ton of little cons that are super, just a lot of love and positive energy, and they love a good cosplay. They love somebody to come through. I met my partner at a Doctor Who convention. Just randomly, we were both there. It's just one of those strange things, but I would have never gone, except I won a ticket to the convention. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll go, whatever. and ended up having a wonderful time and meeting a bunch of great people. So I always like people to know about things like this specifically because I'm like, you don't have to feel like you can't go to the con because you don't have the outfit. You can't dress up. There's a way. Welcome to Trove Costumes.com. There's a way for you to do this. There's a way. Now, when it comes to paying for the costume, are you paying the whole thing up front, or do you have a payment plan? Because that's the other thing I was going to ask you about is how that works.
That's a good idea. Let me write that one down. Yes, right now you pay for it all up front. There is a transaction fee similar to Airbnb, which fuels our ability to continue developing the site. And there is a commission that comes out of the back end of it. So both people in the transaction are paying a piece of it to help the site continue to grow. But it's all up front. I have gotten the idea now that you've said a payment plan. It reminded me, I did get another idea for instituting a tool where somebody could put a deposit down. Deposit would be refunded, and that would also help ensure that the costume came back on time and in the condition that it was sent. And so our web team is looking into that as well because we think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff now that has that is it clot pay? There's all these different pay things where you can pay in installment things, and I think that's really helped some barrier to entry when it comes to just dealing with people who do not have steady paychecks. Like I happen to be a gig worker myself. I just get longer contracts. But when I remember going from gig to gig and knowing, okay, this gig's going to pay me this, the next gig's going to pay me that. And now I can go ahead and like pay off this thing, but then I have this extra money. So where can I put it? So having a little place where you're like, okay, I can put $20 towards that thing I want to get. And then at the end,
as soon as we get off the call, I just wrote that down. It's a great idea. I love it. This is definitely also a tool about lowering the barrier of access so that you don't feel like you have to be a professional cosplayer. You can be cosplay curious and try this thing on before you invest a whole bunch of money into a new hobby that you don't know whether or not you're going to like. So we definitely want to, and we know that not everybody has the ability to spend a lot of hours on making a costume. Maybe they don't have the creative skills or the imagination. Maybe they don't have the mobility. Not everybody has the mobility to create costumes at the level that they may want to. So this is a way that we can lower the barrier of access for anyone who wants to play in costume, create in costume, perform in costume, to have that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think having all those different things will make it so that art can just be created. Like if you're a performer and, especially a young performer, you don't have money for all the beads and all those things. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to have your costumes be less just because of that. If your heart is there and you're pouring it all out on the stage and everybody's just eating it up, nom, 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 why not? Why not be able to have access to that type of costume that you have in your head to make the act just right over the top that you want?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a whole costume either. There are accessories for days on the site. We're approaching 1,000 items, I think, in our inventory, and plenty of them are just accessories. So you could have like a base costume that you've acquired or made and you love and it fits you just right, but you want to like bling it out with a pair of crazy horns or a helmet or a harness with cool foam armor. I'm not a good weapons person. I have like one field, but that's also a part of why I hope our ambassador program will fill in the gaps of my nerd knowledge, right? Because like I go to Dragon Con and Awesome Con and Otakon and CatsCon around here, but I can't travel to every con around the country. I'll lose my mind. And there are definitely gaps in my, like, I love anime, but I don't know enough about it to know all of the characters. And so if you have like a really engaged anime community and following, I would love to have access to them because that's not a group that I know intimately myself and have access to myself. So like back to that quantity versus quality, we don't care about how many people are going to the cons. We don't care about how many people are following you. We care about how different they are because we want everybody to have access to this same tool to use it for their benefit. And we can't do that. I can't do that by myself.
Yeah. It's definitely peer-to-peer. Like we got to all put our hands in it's beautiful to watch, and I love that I've been able to like be part of the development of this and watch this all develop. It's been amazing, and I'm so excited to see how it keeps going. And now that we're, kind of getting towards the end here, let me know what project you have. I know you're telling us a little bit more about what the site is going to possibly be doing in the future. What about you? Like, what is any projects coming up? Anything that has to do with Trove or doesn't have to do with Trove, or might be a personal project?
Ooh. Well, well, behind me, to untrove for a second. Oh, here we go. Are some boxes that you would think are costume accessories going out, but they're actually for a different project. They're to raise money for Ukraine. When the pandemic first started, and there wasn't anything costumed to go to, and I didn't have anything to do with myself, I was trying to figure out how to help. So one thing we could do on the Trove side was engage makers to make PPE. So I was able to get a grant and then fund our makers to sew masks, and so they were doing that to help on the Trove side. But on my PR side, I was trying to think of what I could do to engage my skills. And I also, I know I have too many things going on, but I also make candles. So I made these candles. You know the devotion style candles. They're like long, long pillar like candles like this, and they have stickers on them. And there are the fun ones where they're like, it's like Keanu Reeves or like, fun like characters from TV. So I made one for first Jose Andres, who was feeding the people who were out of a job, and Anthony Fauci next, and then Jacinda Ardern, and then Brett Crozier. And all of those were fundraisers for organizations, obviously like the CDC Foundation for Fauci, World Central Kitchen for Jose Andres. We were able to raise like $3,000 just for World Central Kitchen alone, because I was able to get a story out about it on Eater DC, and hundreds of people ordered these candles. So it started as kind of a lark. I thought it was a funny idea that I like threw up on Facebook, like, hey, this guy needs a saint candle, don't you think? And everybody was like, well, don't you make them? Let's go. And I was like, all right, you're right. Funny where my mouth is. So I started making those candles, made one for Stacey Abrams. And then these are President Zelensky. So fortunately, they're all packed up, or I would show you one. But we have a yellow one with a blue label and his face and the flag and a quote from him. And they're raising money for an organization in Ukraine that helps kids who have been affected by trauma that was created in 2015 after the Crimean annex. And they've been helping kids psychologically deal with the issues of wartime and trauma. So that's what I was working on today, actually. Instead of uploading the Disney ears, I was trying to raise a little money for Ukraine too, and make sure that we're always helping whenever we have the opportunity to do so.
No, that's fantastic. I have not heard of this, but I think it sounds amazing. Now I saw that you were the boxes back there, you're about to ship out. So are you done with that?
These are the last
thing?
Yeah, these are the last ones.
Okay, great. And then are you coming out with another line of them, or are you going to do more candles of this style?
No, I have no plan. I have no plan whatsoever. It just these unprecedented historical events keep happening. I can't remember who this quote is from, so I apologize, but somebody said you should always look for the people who are helping, right? And so I try to, as those people get identified and do amazing things to try to help in these crazy situations, I try to figure out how one little mortal person in Cheverly, Maryland can help support them. So how can I help them helping? And is a common refrain. And so they've just grown up organically out of these situations. Something shitty happens. Somebody steps up, some civic hero does something amazing about it as a single individual, and we need to have their back. We've got to support them. So they've all just come out of the times. I didn't have any plans, 2 weeks ago to make a Ukrainian president candle. That's the timeline we live in.
Yes.
So we'll just see if anybody else comes up, pops up under the radar, either related to this recent situation or the next kink in our timeline, next variant in our
yeah.
The multiverse.
Yes, as the multiverse is winding and twisting us into this. Well, Kelly, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you today. And
you.
again, go ahead and shout out your website again for me, please, along with your Insta and all the social media stuff.
www.trovecostumes.com. And you can find us at Trove Costumes on Instagram as well as Facebook.
Fantastic. And I want to give a shout out to HNIC Network again for having me. I'm always grateful, always humbled by you guys and all the hard work you do. Head on over to headnerdsincharge.com. You can follow, subscribe here on YouTube. And you can also get all of your, merch needs. You want to sign up for the Patreon, headnerdsincharge.com. And I have been your host, Fox Squire. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything. It's Fox Squire 2016. So it has been a pleasure for having you here in the Fox Den, Kelly. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank all of you, all of my lovely debonair folks who are in the audience. It's been a lovely evening. Enjoy yourselves. And I'm so happy that you were able to embrace the spectacle with us tonight. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
In the crossfire. It's caught in the crossfire. Caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the crossfire.